All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you had a wonderful weekend. Last week was nuts, but to start off March, this week is going to be absolutely insane. Not only are we going to be dealing with how the market has been moving, but you have ISM manufacturing on Monday, tariffs come into play on Tuesday, a big China meeting on Wednesday. You're going to hear from the Treasurer Bessent on Thursday, and then on Friday, we get the non-farm payrolls, Jerome Powell, and the first ever White House Bitcoin event. Even this morning, Donald Trump talked about a strategic Bitcoin reserve, and I believe Bitcoin and Ethereum are all up over 10, 12%. Even Solana is sitting at 24% right now. So it's going to be absolutely wild. There's going to be a lot of events. There is a lot at stake considering what the market is worried about after last week. We're going to go over all that. I have the plays, the keys, all the big events. What I need from you, a thumbs up on the video. Make sure you're subscribed. And if you don't know, we are live Monday through Friday, 30 minutes before open, youtube.com/the stock market. We will see you there in the morning, baby. Run it.
Working to the couch, it's the 2020 election. Live in the hills, but I still get a spread. Started with a live, but I still reinvest it. Feel how I feel, then you feel like it's a blessing. I just want the lesson, I just want protection. I'm up and I'm down, but the sound like progression. Farmer never plans if he waits for perfection. Finger to the down, hold it.
Right off the bat, we are not out of the woods just yet. Last week was very bearish. It even got the cusp of being very bad. And then on Friday, the PCE data, the retail spending, none of that was a problem. And even towards the end of the day, there was a headline. At first, it was actually really crazy on Friday because you had the whole peace deal fall apart, and we watched that live. And then there was a little rumor, and it ended up pretty much getting confirmed by what was expected to be spoken about by Bessent this week. And then he even went live as well. But they were talking about Mexico responding to China to prevent any tariffs from the United States on Tuesday. So the market took that good. It got us a little bit of relief, and the range was absolutely wild. It was wide. It brought you back up to Wednesday, but ultimately after hitting that high, last week was pretty bad. That's why I'm saying now we are not out of the woods, and we have a ton of events. The pinnacle of all the data is going to be the non-farm payrolls, but like I'm telling you, you're even going to hear Powell on Friday, and there's all these other events. It's probably going to cause a lot of volatility, especially if uncertainty stays high. So don't forget, coming into this week, coming into the month of March, we are going to have some key events that we need to look for, but don't forget what people are worried about. It is tariffs, but it is now switched over to this worry about growth. So right now, there is a lot of worries about what's going to happen with policy, trade, and all these other countries, even peace and all of that, and worldwide uncertainty and trade uncertainty. It's the highest it has ever been, or at least in the last 25 years. This is why we were talking about people wanting to get the VIX. You got to pay attention to this. This means we are in a heightened environment of uncertainty, even though the market kind of is hanging out in this range. So there's that worry. And then the data, even what we saw on Friday, the GDP estimates, but these worries about growth and things falling off a cliff now due to the trade policy, that is the other worry. So as we start to move forward, main events, and even go through this week, try to juggle these themes. But that's what we're watching for. That's kind of what sets us up, and keep those as the backdrop as you react to this week. And now, don't forget, this is the second big theme. Even last week on Friday, you are still in this range. I told you guys on Friday, even on the live, if we broke out of the range, if we do give up the Trump election level, then yeah, people are going to start to get worried. That would be a new development over the last couple of months. But even on Friday, you literally went to the almost the low end of the range, and then right back up to the middle of the range a couple days after the election. So you are still being very volatile, but you have not advanced or declined, given you're at the same spot you were at even the last couple of times we've even heard from Powell, and you're going to get him again this week. So we'll see if the data or anything meaningful out of the Fed changes that, but keep in mind that this sentiment or this range, you are still dealing with this. So that is key number 2. And then finally, eyes on the prize, my friends. So yeah, global uncertainty, whether something develops or not. Again, on Tuesday, you will be getting the enactment of tariffs. That's actually when it was designed. We'll see if there's any delays or responses, or at the very least, we can now start operating off real data and tariff sizes to know where this trade war is actually going. But that's going to be one element. The other prize you need to be watching for this month in March, it's Jerome Powell. Not only are we going to hear from him on Friday, but a couple weeks from now, you are going to be getting the Fed meeting, and that is going to have this summary of economic projections. Remember, these growth worries that we just dealt with in the last 7 days, what is the main conclusion? They brought back rate cuts for the end of the year. If you really wanted to cut through everything, that's what just happened. It went from a couple weeks ago, even a week and a half ago, we were pricing in less than one rate cut on the market. After last week and these worries about growth, we are now pricing in over 2 rate cuts by the end of the year. Let's see where the Fed and the SEP, what do they have to say about that? That'll probably be the next real big driver. So that's what you got to be watching for. Other than that, we have a lot on our table this week. Again, Monday, ISM manufacturing. That could even give you an idea of the non-farm payrolls. Tuesday, we are going to get Canada and Mexico tariffs enacted. Wednesday, you're going to get that Chinese meeting. Thursday, Scott Bessent. And then Friday, non-farms, Bitcoin, and Jerome Powell. But now, let us get into the plays. So, right off the bat, you already had a lot to deal with this week, but that Trump truth or Trump tweet there this morning about the Bitcoin reserve, I mean, it's absolutely going insane. So, I would watch this all throughout the week, maybe on Friday. That's the sell the event. On Friday, they're going to be having the first ever crypto summit at the White House. So, we'll see. Lately, every time we have these events and crypto gets underwhelmed by the lack of announcements, it goes down, but we'll see if that changes. Otherwise, it's a run up until Friday, and then it is sell the news. So watch out for that. That is play number 1. Definitely going to keep my eye out on those plays, and you're going to hear about them. And then play number 2, K-Web. So on Wednesday, the NPC, the National People's Congress, they are going to be announcing their growth targets for 2025. They have already led, and DeepSeek and AI and all these new themes have came about for China. Let's see if they're going to drive it home or not, especially considering Donald has been generally easier on them, but we'll see if that Canada-Mexico stuff changes anything. But watch K-Web. I made some plays on there on Friday. We'll see how those play out. That is number 2. And then finally, play number 3, TLT. We played a lot of this last week, and I would keep your eyes on it. That rally last week in bonds was big. TLT, the highest it's been. That's even getting back to the election level, the way the market brought down. It even matched up bonds and TLT a little bit. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what Scott Bessent says on Thursday. See if he brings up anything new. He should just jawbone the same stuff because he keeps repeating it. Some of the data and things are moving slow. It's aligning with what he's saying. The bonds are liking it. And even then, the bonds are ignoring inflation expectations, and they're now focusing on this growth narrative and the Fed rate cuts. That's going to be important. So watch out for that, especially if something either gets dramatically worse or better with the market. I still think the bonds are going to be a key area to watch. So going to watch that. I think we'll get some opportunities, especially leading into the non-farms on Friday and Powell. But other than that, I think we're going to have a really exciting week. We'll see where everything from crypto to the policy takes us. But Chad, that is your watch list, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you're healthy, ready to go. Make sure post your watch list. Make sure we see you there in the morning. I need the armor on. I need the helmet shining. And I need you to remember, baby, the only way to get to the truth is by not yielding, my friend. Keep going and make sure you balance your budget. Yes, and get it long term. But Chad, I love you. Drink that water. Stay hydrated, healthy. I hope you had a rested weekend. We got a fun weekend. Or not.